What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am excited to have Beth Wilkas Feraco on the show today. Hi, Beth. How are you?
Hi, Chris. What's up?
Welcome. If you could maybe introduce yourself, let everybody listening know kind of who you are, what you do, and the types of things you like to help people work on.
All right. Let's see. I am a online nutrition and strength coach. I actually coach in person. That's how it all started, and I still do at a local gym here in Maine. And I'm pretty much transitioning to all online right now. Mostly, I focus a lot on nutrition. I love the strength part of it, but nutrition is my niche, I guess you can say. So that's what I do. Just help a lot of women in their 40s, trying to going through perimenopause, menopause, all that kind of stuff. Better their lives.
Awesome.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to, this is the first time we've gotten to talk to each other one-on-one. And I kind of want to just maybe start by learning a little bit about you and your fitness journey. I think a fun piece of doing podcasts like this is just to learn from other people, maybe where they started and where they are now and kind of how they got there, because I think maybe a common issue that people run into is not having the best starting point and kind of having to stick with it long enough to navigate to what works for them. So I think sharing what we've been through to get to a place where, we're in a good spot and we feel good with the nutrition and training, how everything comes together is really beneficial. And I know you've shared a decent amount on different social media platforms just about, kind of what your journey's been like. So I'm interested to hear about that.
Yeah. Mine started really when I quit drinking. I started drinking a lot, and it was like at 42, it was pretty bad. And so one day I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had an event that happened that kind of made me realize, okay, I was at a summer barbecue and I drove home on like a bottle of wine with my 3-year-old son and my 6 or 7, maybe at the time, stepdaughter. And it was like 30 minutes away. And I don't remember. It was like my anniversary. So it was August in the summer, and I don't remember anything that happened. I don't remember getting home. My husband was like, what the heck? So we didn't really have a really good anniversary evening, so to say. So the next day just was like, if I continue to do what I'm doing, I'm going to either kill myself, get someone else killed, hurt the children. It was just something needed to be done. So there was an AA meeting down the street for me. Literally, I could walk. It was a couple blocks away. So I decided to go, which was really hard because I thought about it for years. It was like one of those things you're like, there's no way. I'm not an alcoholic. Like, I'm not going to go to AA, me? No. Mm-hmm. How could I do that? So I just did it, and I went every single day for a year. And during that time, I met a girl. Her name was Allison, and she was not in the program. It was like through Facebook. She was putting a thing up about doing like a early morning boot camp outside. It was, end of summer, September, October-ish at that time. So it was still warm, still light out in the morning. So I met her and a few others every day at 5:30 a.m. And right after that, I went to the AA meeting. So it was like workout, AA, and then came home. I had to do everything at that time before 8 in the morning because my husband owns a business and I was a stay-at-home mom. So okay. I had to be home for the kids. They were little at that time. So that's how it began. And then from there, we kind of separated for a little while. She got me into running. I started running like a bunch of races, half marathons, 5Ks, all that stuff. She said, we kind of separated. She got another job and I'm like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to work out with? So a gym just happened to open actually again, down the street. So I went and started taking classes there. And what happened they were looking for someone to work at the front desk. And I was like, that would be perfect for me right now. My son's just starting to go to preschool, so I can kind of fit that in.
Yeah.
So I started working at the front desk, and my boss, who's my really good friend right now, Hunter Grindle, he's in the mentorship group.
Cool.
Yeah. He asked me if I wanted to start training. And I was like, yeah, that'd be like amazing. So I started interning there. He has he started my whole entire, he believed in me and just saw something in me I did not see in myself. So that's pretty much where it began. I got certified, went to, where is it? I think it was maybe Massachusetts, and got certified through Mike Boyle, certified functional strength coach. And I took my nutrition cert and also got a separate personal training cert at the same time. So this is over the course of a few years. But my main focus was nutrition first, because when I was working out there, and I was like, why am I not losing any weight? I don't understand. And I felt like all the women in there were working so hard during the classes, and we were all kind of in the same boat in our 40s. And I don't think any of us at the time were really focused on our nutrition at all. Mm. So it was like one of those things, I don't understand what's going on. Why am I working so hard, but nothing's happening? And I joined the inner circle at that kind of same time too. So I'm
Gotcha.
in the inner circle. I've been in there for 3 years.
Okay.
So as I'm doing my nutrition course and, learning through Jordan, I was like, oh my God, calorie deficit.
It's magic.
Wow. Seriously, when I started, I knew I never used a food scale before. I was like, I eat so healthy, but I was eating so much brown rice. I mean, seconds, and adding tons of butters and oils and things I just wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
Smoothies that were probably 1,000 calories. Yeah. So you're just dumping peanut butter in, and so it wasn't until I really took control and was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and let's count calories, let's start measuring. I started instantly losing weight, and I was like, this is a game changer.
Yeah.
So that started the fire inside of me to be like, okay. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's great. Yeah. I can relate with you on just kind of having that first discovery of weighing out food and tracking it after a long period of time of trying to do something, but maybe not even realizing that it's not dialed in the way that it needs to be. I say this all the time on the podcast, but I was always very, very skinny, too skinny to play any sports or anything like that. So I always wanted to figure out how to build muscle, but I always had this all in or all or nothing approach on one thing. So I would be like, okay, well, I'm going to lift and I'm going to do it every day, because obviously more is better. Right. And not understanding all the pieces that come together. But to go back to what you said about just discovering the calorie deficit, when I met my wife, she had actually been doing CrossFit for years and had been using MyFitnessPal and been tracking her food and stuff like that. And she was the one, 7 or 8 years ago now, that showed me, oh, you can actually plug this stuff in and be a little bit more calculated about it. It's not crazy. It's not going to overwhelm you or take over your life, but if you can implement this into your routine, that might help you. And then, it was progress started to happen. Yeah,
it's insane. And I feel awareness is really key. And I feel if I was just more aware, I just didn't have a clue, and I really concentrated on exercise. That was the number one. And now I'm realizing it should be switched around.
Yeah.
Nutrition first, exercise, second.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I, going back to what you said about, just getting into AA and then, the gym around the corner presenting an opportunity to you. It seems like in making that switch for you, it was kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all about getting in the right environment and being around the right people. It seems like for you that was really pivotal to take you in the direction you're looking to go. Yeah.
And it just happened kind of organically that way. When I was 17, I actually was in Arizona at the time, and I wanted to be a nutrition major. So I was actually in college studying nutrition.
Oh, cool.
That did not last. I ended up moving to California. At that time, my father passed away. So I was just kind of like young and just was like running from state to state, basically trying to, the grieving, you know, as I look back, it's like, so I moved to California and just, you know, lived on the beach, you know, worked at bars, and kind of now it's like 20 something years ago came full circle that I'm kind of like back into that, what I wanted to be in the first place when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So are you originally from Maine, or are you originally from elsewhere?
I'm originally from Connecticut.
Oh, okay. So you're back in the same general area.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But when my father, we lived in Maine the last few years of my high school. My dad passed away 4 days before graduation, my senior year. That's when I kind of like left home. I traveled, went to Florida, Arizona, California. I just hopping.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of, so I love your social media platform, like all of them. I love following what you do and what you put out there, because I feel like your approach is pretty no nonsense. And I think that's really helpful, honestly. Yeah. And I'm sure it helps a lot of people. And I love it too, just seeing like, hey, you know what? Here's the fact. Here's maybe why what you've heard, it isn't as true as you think it is or want it to be. And I think that's super helpful. I'm curious if, like where did that come about for you? Is it because maybe you continually saw people getting hung up on the same issues, or like, I'm just curious, because I feel like you're more straightforward than a lot of other people. And like I said, I love it. And I wish more people were like that. It's
funny because either you love it or people are like, whoa, wow, that's intense. But I just feel, I think I've always been like that. I've always been a truth seeker. I don't like to be bullshitted, and I don't like to bullshit. Like, I think it's just why, let's just cut to the chase. You know, why I'm not going to sit here and like tell you what you want to hear just because you want to hear it. I'm going to be honest with you, because I wish someone would have told me. I feel like a lot of people were never really honest with me. Like I've had like, I was a mess. I was drinking all the time, but everyone was just like, oh, Beth is so strong, we're not going to do anything. I just feel like people need to not be babied. Especially these days, I feel like people just want to be babied. So many people are so sensitive, and it's like, come on, grow up. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've also been through a lot. I've had a lot that I've dealt with in my life. And so I don't know. I just don't have any time for the nonsense. Yeah, I could see that. Like, you want to pull on your past experience and maybe help people not run into the same roadblocks that you've run in, and just be like, hey, no, like I'm telling you, like I've been like, you don't want to count your calories, but I'm telling you, like, if you do it, if you get yourself into a calorie deficit like that, it's going to help you make progress. Right. I can understand that. And there's a few topics that I've seen you post about recently were ones that I wanted to dive into. And the first one is, I feel like I've been asking everybody this lately. Why are people eating 1,200 calories, and where did that come from? Like, why is that a thing? You know what? It's really scary, actually. And it's just been some arbitrary number that people come up with. And I know it's because, honestly, I feel like I need to write in my fitness pal and be like, stop giving everyone 1,200 calories on your app, because they believe it. And then they don't believe us. It's like, you don't need to starve to lose weight. And people just feel like, I think it's a diet culture that we grew up with. I mean, my mom, she was always on a diet, doing like the cabbage soup diet or some crazy cockamamie thing, always like Jenny Craig, it was nuts. I grew up with that. So it's, they feel like they need to take away everything instead of like let's add some veggies. Right. Let's not take away carbs. Yeah. Or substitute instead of just like completely eliminate. Yeah. It's like a balance. Yeah. I actually, right before we hopped on here, I had a comment on one of my TikTok videos that said, like,
I've been eating 1,200 calories for a few weeks, and it worked really well for the first 2 weeks. I'm feeling a little tired this week though, so I feel a little bit different. I want to be like, well, yeah, that's because you didn't have to. You didn't
Yeah.
have to do that. There's a more sustainable, healthy way to try and lose some weight and maybe make it sustainable. And like, I don't know, I get it. I get that. So often we have like a time point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying, I want to lose this amount of weight and I want to do it by this day.
Yeah.
And especially with warmer weather around the corner, a lot of people want to slim down for vacations and going to the beach and stuff like that. So I get that part of it. And maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
why we have almost this idea in our head of trying to make it a race to lose weight by a certain day. But I think overall, it doesn't have to be that way. And yeah, the 1,200 calorie thing, I
Yeah.
don't get it. And I agree with you. I think it's dangerous and kind of sad, because when you do get those comments where people legitimately think that's what they're supposed to do,
Yeah.
run into issues and are feeling awful about it, then it's like, okay, well, how do you dig yourself out of that hole?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. And I'm seeing a lot of 800 calories. Like, it's like, it's the diet restricted binge cycle. I'm seeing, like, restrict and then they can't stick to it. So then they completely binge. And so they're thinking that they're on a complete 1,200 calorie diet when in fact they are only in 1,200 calories during the week. And then they completely like eat everything back on the weekend. And then they start over on Monday. So it's almost like they have food amnesia. They completely forgot what happened on the weekend. And they are really on 1,200 calories, but they're really not.
Yeah. Yeah. You can easily eat your way out of a calorie deficit
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
with a fun weekend.
Yeah.
It's not too
Another thing,
difficult.
it's funny too, because when I tell people what they can eat, because everyone's like, what should my calorie deficit be? And I've always was taught, go weight times 12. I mean, you could do 10 to 12, but you'll be really hungry if you do times 10. They're like, that is so much food. There's no way I can eat that much. I'm like, do you know how much you're eating now? If you actually knew how much you're eating now, you would not think that. So
is that how you help people kind of break out of that mindset, is just physically helping them to start to document everything?
yeah, it's like, okay, start writing everything down. Why don't you just don't give yourself a calorie number? Just start tracking in MyFitnessPal and let me see like what you come up with. And then tell me if it's too much. And then they're like, oh my God, I did not realize how much I was eating. Kind of like me. It was like, okay, just start tracking and see. And it's like, woo, okay.
Yeah. I think especially when you account for I've seen you talk about licks, bites, taste, stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
when you really account for that, I think that's super eye-opening in some cases.
Yeah. I mean, as a mother, you're picking off your kid's plate. You don't think about it. I'm going to eat his extra chicken nugget. I'm going to have some goldfish. You're just grabbing handfuls. It's like, you're not a trash can. So,
I've never heard that. I love that though.
stop eating off your kid's plate.
Yeah.
And then they forget they did it.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of you mentioned before, like a generational thing with like where maybe some attitudes or behaviors you witness with parents and how they associated with food and stuff like that. I feel like that's one, like I'm in my mid 30s and I feel like that's one that I can relate to. Was you had to, the plate has to be clean, right? We have to clean the plate so however long it's going to take you to eat your dinner, you got to clean your plate and you're going to be at the dinner table until that happens, which is an interesting take on it. And hopefully that is maybe changing for people.
Yeah. I grew up with the clean your plate club for sure. Like sit there until you eat everything or else you're not going to eat dinner or you're going to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's like punishment. And I feel like people, like, especially as parents, we want to reward our kids. Like, okay, if you do this, you get ice cream. If you do this, you get this. And it's like, no, food is not a reward for something that you've done. And that's something that I've had to change as a parent myself through learning. I always tell my son, you don't have to, if you're not hungry, you don't need to finish your food. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like trying to instill in him everything that I wasn't taught, so.
Yeah. I have a daughter who's almost 7 months old, and my wife and I talk about all the time, just like you know, we're not at the point yet where she has any real concept of like what we're saying. And it's about food and about fitness and about, you know, how it may be perceived or absorbed by her. But we do talk a lot about what that needs to look like when she gets to that age where like, and again, another thing that you posted the other day, like kids thinking they need to earn their calories. So like, just like, just like you said, calories are a reward, but you've also said calories are not punishment. And that's one I think about all the time. Like, I think our generation almost perpetuates that idea of like, you exercise so that you can eat more on the weekend. And you don't think that that is a dangerous thing to say because you say it with your friends or whatever. Haha, it's a joke.
Yeah.
And you, by doing that, are creating an unhealthy relationship for yourself. But then as you get older and you continue to say that stuff around your kids, it just kind of perpetuates the unhealthy relationship.
Oh, did you see the last video I made about not eating your calories burned? And I had literally hundreds of girls, little girls. I'm talking because I looked at their profiles, like between ages 10 and 16, telling them that I triggered their eating disorder. Talking about, you know, how you should not eat your calories back or pay attention to your watch for what it says for calories burned, because it's completely inaccurate. And it stirred up a lot, and it actually made me really sad to see how many kids are focused on their watches and what the watch says just to eat food. It's a huge problem. And I'm like, why are you focusing on, they're like, I'm not going to eat now since you said that. I'm like, okay. They depend on their watches, what it says to eat food. That's scary.
Awful. That's really scary.
It's really scary.
That makes me think of, you know, talking about My Fitness Pal and how like you wish you could call them and tell them to like stop telling people what your algorithm says they should eat. I've often thought, I can't believe that companies are allowed to produce a wearable technology that can estimate calories burned for you, because it seems like the only thing it does for people is create some type of relationship that's unhealthy, because you're either trying to work out to burn calories, which is not healthy, or you're trying to burn calories to eat or dictate when you can eat or shouldn't eat. Meanwhile, we know that there's research that says these devices the error rate is like 25 to 30% on some of them. It's not even close. And I don't know, like, do you have you found any successful ways to break through that with people other than just trying to lay out the facts? Because that's one I struggle with. I feel like it's become so ingrained that it's hard to walk back from it.
I haven't really had any issues yet, because I feel like it's more with the younger children / teenagers, which is disturbing. Less than the adults. Like I just tell them, listen, turn off the exercise calories on your app. Do not pay attention to what it says. You're exercising for health, for muscle building, which is actually going to raise your BMR. You control the calories going in. You cannot control, you have no idea how much you're burning. That's defeating the purpose.
Yeah.
But I really think it needs, for the younger generation who is so focused on this, and I don't even know why half of them, these 10-year-olds, should not be having an Apple Watch. They probably shouldn't even be on TikTok. And why are they looking at people losing weight on this app right now? And I think a lot has to do with this pandemic. The parents are home. A lot of people have gained weight during this time. So they're modeling, like I was talking about, what the parents are doing and saying. And it is an epidemic right now. I feel like if you go look at that video and look at the comments, it's horrifying.
Yeah, that's scary. That's another one I think of just in general, like even beyond like what type of language do we use in front of our daughter, but like when she gets to the age of, you know, understanding that the social media platforms are there and how to balance that, and just like, you can only control what you say in front of your kids, but then there's this whole world on social media where it's unfiltered.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's scary.
It's scary. It's very scary. I'm so glad I did not grow up with social media. I mean, I'm 48, so we didn't have that until I was probably late 30s. I think
Yeah.
when the iPhone came out.
Yeah.
So,
I signed up for a Twitter account in 2009, which was my senior year of college. And up
mhm.
until that point, I didn't have an iPhone. I had a trusty flip phone, which was great.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look back on that era and wish I still had a trusty Motorola Razor flip phone because I wasn't so connected to
Yeah.
everything all the time. Those were the
Yeah.
good old days.
Right. So,
Another one that you posted about was people blaming their hormones for maybe issues with progress. And I'm curious to hear about that one, because that's not one I've encountered as much.
mhm.
Sometimes, but I'm curious to hear about that, and maybe is that a piece of feedback that you tend to get?
It happens a lot, yes. Especially women in their 40s. And I mean, I'm 48, and I did that. I was that person. I was like,
Mm,
it's my hormones. And ask my husband. He's like, Beth, I spent so much money on supplements. I went to like naturopathic doctors. I was like, there's something wrong with me. And this is during the whole working out, getting sober, but nothing's changing process
mm-hmm.
because I wasn't concentrating on my nutrition. Um, yeah, I even got my progesterone, like estrogen tested. I was just low on progesterone. That was it. Um, and so I blamed everything. I was like, oh, it's because I'm in my 40s and it's my hormones. I was that person. And then I started losing weight when I was tracking calories, and I'm like, oh, well, it is, it's not my hormones. It's me. And I think a lot of people do not like to take ownership, or they just want to blame everything on something. And that's
Makes
a
it a little
hard,
bit easier if you go that
yeah.
route.
And it's less work.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think the age, just in general, aging, I think people get to a certain point where, for whatever reason, the mindset, if you experience some struggles, it sometimes goes to, well, maybe I'm just past the point in my life where I could do whatever it is. So train
Yeah.
hard, get stronger, lose weight. Um, and that's an important one to help people understand, whether the claim is hormones or anything else related with age, that you're not as limited as maybe you think you are.
Yeah. And it's like the habits. I had really bad habits. I mean, at the drinking, but causes sleep issues. So
Mm-hmm.
there's one. It's like, okay, if you're not sleeping, you're more hungry, you're going to eat. There's all these different factors that people just don't take into consideration. It's like, okay, but you're drinking like a shit ton of wine every night. You're snacking after you're drinking the wine. Then you don't get any sleep, and then you're stressed. You don't exercise as much because you're tired. So it's a chain of events, but it's your hormones.
Yeah. 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 The drinking one gets a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I noticed myself, going from probably drinking 6 beers a night each night on the weekend to cutting it down to a beer over the weekend. Just that didn't happen, the snap of the fingers. Obviously it doesn't for anybody, but like slowly getting to that point and seeing just how, making that one change can improve all the things that you were just saying. Like you wake up feeling more energized. You're able to do the things throughout the day. You're not as tired or sluggish or anything like that. That was a game changer, and that's just one habit. So imagine if you can stack habits over time, how much better you're going to feel. But I think, stacking habits, it takes so much time. And it's hard to get people pulled in. And I think hopefully that's an area where coaches like you and I and others can help people continue with the process, because I feel like everybody has a cutoff point. Some people it's very quickly, it's 1 or 2 weeks, and some people it's like after 3 or 4 months. But being able to stick with it and stick through the process of stacking habits, which, as we know, habits don't change overnight, is I think maybe one of the biggest hurdles that people run into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And changing, wanted to do everything all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, no, just focus on one thing. Okay, what is one thing you could do this week? That's easy. Like, drink more water, walk for 10 minutes even, or, a day, and then add something. When you master that one habit, you add something else.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's not sexy. That's not exciting.
It's not quick, and it's not quick.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, so something that I like to ask as well is, in terms of navigating through a goal. So we've talked a lot about weight loss, so maybe we could focus on that. And I think we've touched on some of these as we've gone through the conversation, but maybe to just kind of try and pull them all together. Like, for somebody that comes to you and says, Beth, I really want to lose weight. I've struggled up until this point. What are the first steps that you think I should take to actually get to that goal? Just like those first couple of steps to start to put the pieces together to move in the right direction.
I think first, like we said before, is I always say, okay, let's take a look at what are you eating? Let's focus on, like, why don't you just write everything down? Start there, just because awareness is key, and let's start there so we can just get like a gauge of like how much you're eating. And then right then it's almost an immediate light bulb is awareness. It's like, okay, now I understand that, Beth, I've heard this, like, Beth, oh my God, I was eating so much. Like this really like woke me up. And so that's always a key one. Like I said before, like not giving them a calorie goal, just say, okay, just track your calories for like a week. And let's see. And that is usually the first step. Some people though, do not want to count calories. I think I've only had like one or two people that had a previous, or they are dealing with like a previous binge eating disorder or something that they haven't had for like 10 years, or because I never work with anyone that has like a active eating disorder. So that's out of our scope of practice. But the 3 plates, 2 snacks, I don't know if you heard of that. Like Jordan is a huge with that, we could start there too with that. And that has worked well.
Yeah. So just limiting your overall intake to I think it's 3 main meals, and then you get 2 snacks kind of throughout the day, wherever you want them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I like that. I think there's something to even taking pictures of the food as well. And then like, I don't know, there's something about going back into your camera roll and then scrolling through to see, and it all kind of stacks there in a grid. And sometimes you're like, whoa, like, okay.
Or if they know they have to take pictures, they're like, okay.
Yeah, I want to make it look better.
I'm gonna have a salad today.
Yeah. There's that kind of inherent accountability that comes with it. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I like what you said there. Not even starting with a calorie goal a lot of the time, because I think there's something about, if you haven't tracked before, just doing that process. You're probably going to clean up your diet a little bit because you have to write it all down. Yeah. And I see a lot of people, they start to lose weight initially before we even assign any type of calorie goal or anything like that, because of that simple fact that it's like, all right, well, if I have to look at it, if I have to write it down, if I have to send somebody pictures of it, I maybe need to clean things up a little bit.
Yeah. And it takes used to getting to that. If you've never tracked calories, also, I'm like, okay, just get used to the app, try to figure it out. There's a barcode, and it's just like the first month, I always tell them, listen, it's the learning. The first month's all about learning. So that's why I do a 3-month minimum, because the first month they're just getting used to it. They don't get into the groove of it till like week 3 or 4.
Right. It's kind of like the first month is kind of like an introduction to new habits. And like we said, as you introduce habits, they're not going to happen at the snap of a finger. But so just like even making mistakes while you do that is important, and it helps you figure out the right way to do things.
Yeah. And creating a healthy relationship with the scale is another one that I think the scale, I've been trying to really focus on teaching people that scale, weight loss, and fat loss are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Just from coaching and some people these days, that they've the inches come off a lot of the more times than the scale, especially if they started a new strength training program. They won't see initial scale weight loss, even while tracking, but the inches are insane. And then when you put the photos together and see the inches and you have that to show them, they're like, wow, like, because you're losing fat. What people don't realize is when they do 1,200 calorie diets, they're losing muscle, they're losing water, they're losing bone. So they're seeing scale weight loss, but it may not be fat loss.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is a very difficult one to communicate as well. Because the scale has been the focal point of progress for everybody forever. Yeah. And it doesn't always mean you're making the progress that you're looking for. And that's why things like waist measurements are important and progress pictures are important, because I had a client recently who had a pretty high level athletic background. So he was a former college football player and hadn't lifted in a while. It had been 5 or 6 years since that phase of his life. And then we got back into lifting. He wanted to lose weight. And the scale really wasn't moving, but the measurements were improving because, from having a high level athletic background, his ability to regain that muscle that he built years ago was just, head and shoulders above the average person. So we're rebuilding muscle at a very high rate. And the scale doesn't move, but like helping to outline why that's the case is important, because like you said, scale weight and fat loss are, they're sometimes related, and often they are, but they're also two completely different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. It's like the scale is so like it consumes some people's just whole entire existence, I feel like.
Yeah.
And really like helping them realize that, listen, like when someone says, I want to be this weight by this time, it's like, okay, let's not focus on the weight. Let's focus on everything else. Let's focus on your habits instead of that like weight that you think you're going to be or feel the best at, and everything's going to be perfect. There's going to be unicorns flying through the air when that number hits the scale. It's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough one. I don't, sometimes, that may mean we just stop stepping on the scale for a while, I think, which is also hard. That, the going all in seems to be very easy for a lot of people, but it's the pulling back. Cause I feel like pulling back on stepping on the scale, I think if you can step on the scale every day and it's, you have at least an okay relationship with it, to understand that like the scale is going to go up and down, and there's only so much we can do about that. If you can do that every day, that's great. You get more data, and that's really what it is data. But to pull back from that can be very difficult. And even like with training, to say, okay, we've trained hard for 4 to 5 weeks. We're going to hit a deload this week. I want you to we're still going to work out, but it's going to be less intense. We're going to pull the volume back. This is going to be a week that's pretty much like active recovery, so that you're feeling energized and ready to go when we hit the gym next week. And, we'll continue to make progress. It's just kind of a pause. Even making that, the ability to pull back there, I think is really tough for people to just get more of like a moderate approach, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been great, Beth. Thank you for jumping on the podcast. Absolutely. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you? Let people know where you're located, especially on the TikTok.
On the TikTok. You know what's so funny is I poo-pooed TikTok for so long. I was like, I'm never doing TikTok. There's no way. And then that challenge. Were you in the mentorship when that started?
I joined after.
Right after.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to start it and see how it goes. Because Jordan and Enrico, I don't know if you know, and he was videographer. They came to my gym in Maine and did a seminar.
Nice.
So they were like, you'll be perfect. You would be perfect for doing videos. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. They're like, no, you should be like on camera. that's your thing. And so it's just so happened the TikTok, and I'm loving it now. It's like, okay, I can be myself. I can get the message out there. My brother is an actor, so maybe that has something to do with it. I got that in my genes. Who knows?
There you go. Yeah.
But you can find me at Beth Feraco Fitness on TikTok and Instagram. And BethFeracoFitness.com is my website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, check Beth out. Go follow her TikToks. And if you're not on TikTok and you're listening, get on TikTok. Beth got me on TikTok.
Yeah, you're doing awesome. I love your videos. I watch them all the time. Seriously.
I'm enjoying it. Similar to what you said, like I've found that leading up until then, I've always been very good at like educate. Just give people quality information, but not necessarily pull my personality into it. And then you were like, just get on TikTok. So I hopped on and I was like, nobody knows me here. So I'm just going to go for it. And then it got fun. And then I found out like, oh, people wanted to see that kind of side of me and see your personality. People like people with personalities. Who knew?
You're great on camera. You really are.
Thanks.
For real. So yeah, keep doing it. Keep crushing it.
Well, Beth, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. This was fun.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Super fun.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.